I need to do more meditation, to be honest. Like collectively, I
That
think we do as
that
well.
was good, innit? It's like short but
Yeah, it
sweet
was
as well,
mad.
man.
Even the other day, me and Trayvon just had one out in the square. But like, I've had an interesting time recently with meditation, where like I haven't been doing as much of it, and life's almost just became one in its own way, as it should. And in that, like I said, I've fallen off my practice a little bit. But then when I have entered it, it's almost like higher self showing me in its own way that like I am at a new threshold in a way, and that if I really intend my attention to it, it can really start bringing in a lot of answers for like my own transformation at the moment.
Mm.
But just like even when I have tapped in properly, it's like more started to come through that wasn't accessible or unlocked like when I was before, you know.
Mm.
I don't know if you felt that recently with meds, but
No, I found like a question I get asked a lot is how do I start a meditation? Like, I
yeah,
want to begin meditation,
yeah,
but there's no comfort. There's not one way of doing it. So when people ask me that, I always
course,
say, think of how you can bring meditation more into your own life. It might be
mhm,
something like, a good one is just going on a walk without your phone,
yeah,
going to the gym without music,
mhm,
and starting practicing being more present in your tasks. Maybe going to yoga, doing a
definitely,
stretch, especially
definitely,
for a beginner that's struggling to really just calm their mind. Just focus on how present you're doing a task,
yeah.
and that's, as you say, is sort of
You know what?
meditation
Yeah,
just blends into your life
right,
sort of through that,
right,
man. And
right. And there should be no separation in that way, like you said.
for me, like, meditation is all about the stillness, and it's in the times of stillness that your higher self,
Mhm,
God, the universe, however you want to interpret it, these messages in your subconscious come through in the stillness. And if
mhm,
you're not even listening to your subconscious,
mhm,
you don't have a
mhm.
chance to do that. And
Yeah.
stillness isn't just doing breathing meditation.
No.
Stillness is expressed loads of different ways.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's very deep. 'Cause it's something I put in the Telegram recently about that. I think one of the first posts was about stillness and silence, or silent and stillness being anagrams in a way, and how they're
Mm.
kind of like stillness is the physical expression of silence, if that makes sense, and silence is a sound vibrational kind of measurement.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, man. So just to jump straight into it, guys, welcome back to this is episode 2 of the Soul Talk podcast, where we essentially bring on different guests from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and different stories, and we talk from the soul, and we transmit consciousness through us in a way which is, yeah, with the intention of uplifting people and those that we reach with this message. So, yeah, man, today we're here with the one and only Cragg. This is episode 2 with my boy Cragg.
Yo,
Welcome on, man.
thank you for having me.
Appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on, definitely. Just to introduce Cragg. Wow, we've been on a little roller coaster in its own way, I guess, getting to know each other recently. Probably been at least over a year actually. But like since we first got introduced,
I think it was actually,
it was my event,
yeah,
wasn't it?
you're
Like
right.
over a
It's
year
been
ago.
over a year. It's
Yeah,
been over a year.
yeah. Um, but as time's evolved, since we've been connected, like we've definitely magnetized towards each other. I think especially when that naturally occurs, like there's aspects within each other that you can learn from and really help each other with. So I've definitely found that with you, bro.
Yeah, our visions are definitely aligning at the moment. So
100%. But yeah, Craig's locked in, tapped in definitely with the underground music scene, with the crypto scene, Web3, the blockchain. It's got a lot of awareness in all of those different backgrounds.
I'm tapped in
And
with the stuff that I'm personally passionate about.
yeah.
If I'm passionate about it, just like I'm tapped in with the vegan community and health and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
If I'm passionate about something,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
try
yeah.
and become a member of the communities, not just a observer of what's going on.
100%. 100%, bro. And yeah, you're just a man on a mission, all in all, Definitely a man on a mission, man. Like, it's been inspiring to spend and share space with you recently because, I've been able to take a lot away from just your work ethic, your drive, the way that your brain works. And, yeah, you've opened me a lot, up to a lot of things recently, which I'm grateful for.
Thank you, man. I mean,
Um,
it's vice versa as well. That's the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
reason why the point of connecting is, we've all
100.
got different ideas. Our brains work in different ways. And we've
Yeah.
all got different perspectives. And it's the more we share that, the more you sort of become more connected to yourself and the people around you,
Definitely.
your vision and stuff like that.
Definitely, bro. So yeah, just a man of great integrity and a lot to share, man. A lot you've got to share in this world. So I'm excited to just jump into this. Begin
Appreciate the
sharing it.
introduction, man. Appreciate the
Yeah, yeah,
introduction.
of course. And obviously, this is how I want to start structuring them anyway. But yeah, how we landed there on the show just more recently, like we've been spending a bit more time talking. You know, you've been helping me a lot more just with some of the investment side of things and figuring out my own footing. You know, with some of the stuff that you're involved with. And it's been really good. It's been really good getting to know a lot more about that space, to be honest. And like, it's been really driving me to actually take more action in that space myself and just like take it all in, absorb as much as I can, and start creating those shifts. So in myself,
I've seen you take action on my advice, and that's part of why I'm willing to give you more type thing.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you've taken action, you showed the initiative, and that's the hardest part. So.
yeah, yeah. So to start with, then, bro, how did as a whole, you know, if you can take us back a little bit, just from like your journey, maybe from like when you started to expand your awareness a little bit more, think outside the box, start shifting things in your own life, or going on a bit of that, you know, that kind of like pivotal point in your transformation. Maybe touch a little bit on that, and kind of all in all, how it's brought you here today.
Yeah, so really, I think my life properly started getting started when it all fell apart, and that was
Yeah,
when I was
interesting.
16.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was fresh out of boarding school in state college, and I didn't. Yeah, I jeopardized it for myself. I was having way too much fun.
Yeah.
You dropped me in that environment. I had all the freedom that I'd never had,
Mhm.
and I just completely made the most of that opportunity.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then, and then I got kicked out of that college after a term, and I ended up in rehab, and that was where I was introduced to the concept of spirituality in the first place. And I was very lucky. I was the youngest person to have gone through my rehab program. I was the youngest person to have done it, and I came out literally just a couple days before my 17th birthday. And so I'd say like that was the key turning point. Like when anyone talk, if we're talking about my life, like what was the key thing that changed my trajectory?
Right.
It was rehab.
Yeah.
It was, I tell you what it was. It was getting a closure on my childhood,
Right.
and I felt like,
That's how you
especially right
described it.
before I turned 17, I had a closure on everything that I'd been through, and I understood like where I was at with myself, and I'd processed everything. I'd had a bit of time to just get that. And
Yeah.
I think in a world where we're so overstimulated, especially from a young age, you know, I was watching like cartoons, and I was in, you know, we are talking about how I was on phones a bit earlier than your
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
generation and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this, where it's like all this overstimulation is why, you know, we're seeing young people become adults and they still haven't figured stuff out yet,
Yeah.
because they haven't figured stuff out with themselves, because they've never even had a chance to look inward. So yeah, that's when things really started to change for me. And then that was very conveniently right before COVID hit. So then when it was all lockdown and stuff, I feel like for a lot of people that was an introspective period.
Mhm.
I wasn't living at home, and that was the first time I hadn't been living at home. And
Right.
so that was quite a transitional thing for me and myself, not having like my family to support me and stuff like that. Stuff that you maybe
Mhm.
take for granted until you don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but basically, you know, and shout out my guy Finn Corbett, Jackie Corbett, Sam Corbett, shout out to Corbett's. But I was living with them during lockdown. They took me in. I turned their living room into my bedroom, and I
Okay.
really started to sort of just having those, because I had 6 months where I was unemployed and not in education. All my
Yeah.
friends are in the same boat; they're on furlough, not in education, and that gave me loads of time to just look inwards. And obviously, I've been through rehab, but that's quite traumatic. So having like a good 6 months where I'm just reflecting on everything, and I was
Mhm.
also around a lot of people older than me that could give me good advice,
Yeah.
and that definitely helped me get
Yeah. Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
connected with myself, connected with the people around me, and like I started feeling like less destructive to sort of the
Mm.
people in my life. And
Just a quick one. Looking back on that period in your life, because
mm, mm, mm,
things revealed themselves. Like for me personally, because I also feel like a lot of people who embark on that spiritual kind of change have that experience, you know, that does change the trajectory. It's like a case of divine intervention, right? Where I see it as we've all got some type of predestined path that we're embarking on,
Mm.
and sometimes we might sway off that slightly and get a little bit off track, and higher self and the divine will kind of like intervene in your life in a way to just bring you back on the straight and narrow. And in my
Mm.
experience of that, obviously there's similarities, but yeah, there was a lot of synchronicity around it that began to reveal itself as
Mm.
I grew and evolved in my spiritual path, and like looking back like years later, and I started looking into maybe a little bit around the dates of when things happened and whatever, and I really started to see that, wow, actually that was like super synchronized in how it all went down. And if anything, it was just a further kind of confirmation that there's a fingerprint of a creator or a higher force that I'm working with. Therefore, that must be the case for every single individual. So, like, yeah, how was there anything looking back now that felt really synchronized about the way it all went down? Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure there
yeah.
was.
It was. I say like yeah. I should have mentioned it when I
Mm,
first was
mm,
talking. Like how I was introduced to spirituality
yeah.
was because the way everything happened when I got kicked out. When I got kicked out of college, as I've
Mm-hmm.
like explained to you back then, like I had a lot of different things going on in my life. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just one thing that I was like causing trouble in. I had police on my back, council on my back,
Mm-hmm.
family on my back. Like everyone that has a stake in me
Mm,
is concerned about me, and
right.
so when I got kicked out, I knew I'd got off very, very, very lightly in comparison to like not only everything else that was going on, but also the fact that like I kind of took the blame for something I didn't really do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was like I just understood at the time why I took that blame is because I understood at the time, no matter how unfortunate it was in the moment, I recognized that this has all happened perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been caught for something that I didn't even do, but but like it's I knew I was like, why has it worked out like this? If like I've been caught for something that I didn't do, but then I could have been caught for loads of stuff that I did do,
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, like I understood that there was a higher power. Like that was the first time I wasn't religious or anything before that. I was
yeah.
raised
Okay.
Christian. My dad's atheist. My mum's Christian.
Cool.
I was raised Christian, but
Cool.
when I was growing up, I did watch her lose her faith in Christ and like
Right.
stray away from religion. And so at that time in my life, I was not religious at all, not believing or anything like that. And so that was when I understood, yeah, okay, there was a lot of synchronicities. I felt like this was meant to happen to me and not my peers. I understood that everything had happened for a reason. I just didn't understand what the reason was yet. And
Yeah,
I knew
yeah, yeah,
everything had
yeah.
happened too perfectly for it not meant to be this way.
Right.
And it's ironic because then had I gone into rehab and people were talking about higher power, they didn't force the opinion of God on anyone, but a lot of people talked about higher power. And
Interesting.
had I gone into rehab without all those synchronicities leading me to rehab, if I'd gone in there and they talked to me about a higher power, I might not
Been
even
in that
believed it.
open receiving
It would have
space.
been open. Where because like a week before I'd recognized a higher power in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That
Deep.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
that all fell into place.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense actually. Makes a lot of sense. Like, and that's the thing. I feel like the codes kind of always existed in one's life. Like since you were born, there's a lot of patterns that show up in the way that our life kind of works, and the places that we go to and the people that we stay in, the numbers that are kind of circulating in our life. And I feel like it is just a matter of like raising the frequency, and it all starts to reveal itself to you so that you can match and receive. And you've created this openness, kind of like your bandwidth has kind of shifted in a way, and you can tap
Mm-hmm.
into what's always been there. um but yeah, man, it's good to know a little bit more about kind of like your story. And some of the things, I did have a couple of questions that I guess we could also go into as well. um because I know, like, as we were chopping it up last night, like there's so much that's happening right now in the world in terms of shifts in all different aspects of like the world stage.
It's everywhere, man.
So
Every
what is
aspect.
it? Yeah, like with what we know about, or what you know, also about like Web3, cryptocurrency, blockchain, and those things. Um, yeah, it seems as though like they're leading in this economic kind of shift that's taking place with the financial system and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And again, maybe from the spiritual kind of eye, this or the astrological eye is kind of like aligned with this shift over into this new age, of Aquarius, and us kind of entering a new period, a new epoch in kind of history. Um, how do you see, like, at large, I guess, the financial system changing over like the next 10 years or so? If you could break anything, like even just some ideas or.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, we just got to understand where we're at as a society. And stuff like AI, stuff like the blockchain, stuff like the internet, these are all new discoveries that completely revolutionize the way we operate as a society, from from the micro to the macro level. It completely revolutionizes everything. And some people think it's good. Like we were talking about that documentary of the people designing social media and stuff. They thought they were doing a good thing,
Right.
but now 10 years later, they realize what they've built, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this has ethical concerns." And I think we're maybe at like a similar point with AI and stuff like that. Like me personally, I am manifesting AI is going to revolutionize everything. Blockchain is going to revolutionize everything, right? We grew up, we can't imagine living life without the internet. Like we can't really imagine life without the internet now, because it was just part of us. And our kids will not be able to imagine life without the blockchain, right? I'm very involved in Web3 and the blockchain. I have heavy stakes in crypto. I'm heavily invested in crypto personally. However, I do not believe that crypto is even the future. Like people are talking like crypto is the future. I don't even believe in crypto because I just don't know. What I believe in is the technology underlying crypto, which is the blockchain. And I think that creates new opportunities for sort of security, transparency, right? The thing about the blockchain, imagine it as an open canvas. You can add whatever you want, but you can't edit what's already there. And that sort of transparency, especially in something like a financial system, is something that we don't have now. Like our governments move money about, and we can't. There's no transparency in terms of like who's moving money about when.
I'll just add a little point to this, because what you're saying is like there's been a lot that's been hidden as well, right? In a way, and there's a lot of deception within the financial system as it stands, and what's being hidden is being revealed and it's coming to the surface, on a collective shift. And I just find it interesting how crypto as well, like crypt means hidden in a way, and it's kind of like the driving force which is revealing what's flawed and what's hidden flaws within our system that are coming to light, and it's kind of the vehicle that's taking us to the next kind of system which will be more transparent and be hopefully a higher octave of where we were before as a financial system. Maybe.
And I think the opportunities are endless. Like even just crypto alone, like I can send you crypto right now, and neither of us have to sell our personal information. And this is what people forget with the banks and stuff, is like you are selling your personal information to do any transaction with your bank account. And that's what you pay in. That's your currency. And this is why club cards exist and like why loyalty schemes exist. This is why everyone wants your email. Your information holds value. And
100.
the blockchain Web3 is all about your information holds value. And with all this transparent systems, we can actually monitor that value better than ever before. So for example, right now, we want to upload this podcast on Instagram for content to promote it. However, Instagram we're not gonna own the video that we upload to Instagram. Now, it's not transparent how it works yet because there's no mass adoption. But something like the blockchain creates the opportunity. It's more tangible, where it's like we could upload and actually own the content that we're uploading. How exactly that works, I'm not the best guy to speak to about. But those are the sort of opportunities. And in terms of like owning your property, particularly like for me as an artist, I own a bunch of intellectual property. And intellectual property is like a big thing that the blockchain, that's just the proof of ownership is a big thing that the blockchain offers. And also just like a proof of, let's say I release an NFT and that's like digital merch, is like I release the same thing as like a t-shirt. You could buy the t-shirt and you could buy the NFT, but then if you sell on the t-shirt, there's like no proof that that's like an original t-shirt. Where the NFT, there is proof that that is the original NFT. And so like the blockchain in general just offers like more transparency, and just new opportunities that we can't do right now. And especially with AI as well, with like the AI
That's what I was just gonna
and
show
the
you this,
blockchain.
bro. Look at that. Did you see what I put in the thing this morning?
No, bro.
Okay, you might not, because I tagged you because I thought, it's relevant to some of the things that I might have been touching on today. But if there's any points in there that you could speak to more as well, they're quite interesting, because I saw it and I thought, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think this is the argument with AI. I do want to talk about AI and I want to talk about financial system. Firstly, I just want to talk about why our current financial system is flawed. And if you look at Bank of England or the American Federal Reserve, I've studied how these companies came about, and you think that they're like an official government entity, but they're not. These are private companies, and like, people talk about like pyramid schemes or crypto being like a scam. Like, look into how the Federal Reserve came about. Like, this is like the epitome of what a scam is. And in terms of just like, ultimately it's just a currency that people have like chosen to adopt. Like, before the dollar existed, right, every state had their own currency, and you'd go into another state and you'd be able to spend your currencies. It's not like your money doesn't hold any value, but it's just like, even before the dollar was created, like, we were a lot more normalized to just having loads of different currencies and exchanging value in different ways. And right now, the current reason why Bitcoin is like revolutionary is because it's pretty much come about the same way that the Federal Reserve has come about, or the pound has come about, in terms of someone's created it. It's not the government that's created it. An individual has created it, and the population has decided it has value. And because everything that holds value is subjective. Why do people decide gold holds so much value when something like copper is arguably more practical and useful? And it's just it's stuff like this where it's like everything is subjective. And so something like Bitcoin, our current financial system, we don't know when they're going to turn the mini money printer on. We don't know when they're going to release more currency and deflate all the currency that I already hold, right? Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency, but especially Bitcoin because it's the market leader. But like, they have full transparency. When they're going to turn on the money printer, how long they're going to turn it on for, and that's called like tokenomics. And so there's a finite supply. Like, even gold, bunch of gold's just been found in China, which will drive the price of gold down. Like, the more gold that's found, where it's not finite, and having a finite currency, right? Something like Bitcoin, it offers more transparency than any other financial system in the world. And that's why the wealthiest people that want to preserve their wealth, and they want to choose the currency or the store of value that will outperform all others, that is why it's Bitcoin, because Bitcoin offers a security that other currencies don't have. And your money's in the bank, you don't own it. The bank can stop you accessing it. The police can stop you accessing it. The tax man will take it from you.
There
Like,
you go.
you don't fully own anything.
And just speak to a little bit about how the asset, like, there's a malleable nature to the asset where, like you said, with a house or a property, you can't take some and
You can't sell half a
diversify
house.
Exactly.
You can't sell half a house.
So yeah, I just think that's a really good point. Why that form of asset is more beneficial, to invest in.
And it's just the flexibility. It's like, even if you own a stock, like, I can't send you 0.1 of a stock. I can send you 0.1 of a Bitcoin. And these are things. And obviously, the argument for why crypto doesn't work is, the banks will store my money for free, but crypto charge me if I want to do any transaction with my crypto or on the blockchain. There's fees to do that. Truth is, the crypto is designed for rich people. They don't care about the fees. They understand that the fee is for security and privacy, and those are two things that the bank don't offer them. And they'd rather pay the fee and have those two things than put their money in the banks. And yeah, that's a summary on sort of where I believe the financial system's heading, and sort of why our current financial system is flawed and why it's due to change. And even if you look into like a company like Swift, there is like a new payment processing system that's already being rolled out. But
like, I know, it might take us some interesting places, but like, what do you think will change in, if you want to call it the 3D, or the, I guess, the system that a lot of people may stay in as things evolve? Like, what do you think will really be implemented, or how are they gonna try and twist these technologies in a way that keeps them in their power places, or perceived power places?
Yeah. So obviously, right, crypto and stuff, like, on paper, the governments are never gonna allow it. Like, the people in power who control the world would never allow crypto to come about. Which, crypto is anonymous. It's unknown who created Bitcoin. It's unknown, right? So for me, like, this is the whole thing, is like, could crypto be the future? Like, yes, there's a lot of exciting opportunities, but realistically, it was probably created by the same people that created our current financial system.
Right.
The reason I think that is because the people in control of our financial system would never let something like Bitcoin to even exist in the first place, unless they created it themselves, type thing. So that's part of it. But like, ultimately, I think there'll be a lot of regulation on crypto.
Yeah.
And basically, what the governments want to build is these things called central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
Which is basically, they want to build on the blockchain as well because they understand that the
Yeah.
blockchain is more secure than our current internet. And especially with online banking right now, what is the biggest concern with banking in general is fraud. People are getting done for fraud.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, that's the main issue. And so naturally, obviously, building on the blockchain is more secure than our current internet. The
Yeah.
blockchain, because of how it's built, is very difficult to hack.
Right,
As we
right.
discussed
Yeah.
yesterday with the way the blockchains. A blockchain is a chain of like each block is like a node which is connected to another node of a smart contract, and it's all because it's a chain. You can't edit any information anywhere on the chain without editing everything, which is borderline impossible.
Do you know what's deep, bro? If you can hold any thoughts you still have, sorry, at the moment. But like me and Babe were talking about how like generational uh, uh, cycles kind of unfold, and how like each soul that incarnates and passes on that generational um, curse, or whatever whatever you want to call it, that lesson that's not being learned, acts in the same way. So what I'm speaking to is, isn't it interesting how, as humans, we create forms of technology, or cryptocurrency, a phone, a camera, a this or that, and it's just reflecting back at ourselves aspects of how our internal worlds work, of how our self works. And it's like we're constantly just trying to remind ourselves of what we are in a way. I think at the same time as evolving and, expanding like consciousness through all these different new experiences that we're creating with all of this. But yeah, it was interesting how like you're gonna go on to describe the blockchain and how it works, and how like it's interesting that we're kind of chained through these ancestral kind of cycles and things, that are traumas that are embedded in us that we keep kind of going through because someone's not come along and broke the link or whatever, So, but yeah, I just wanted to touch on that one.
Ah, yeah,
before we
yeah,
got
no,
in.
it's cool, man.
So yeah, how does the blockchain work?
So the floor is on in terms of like how I see it getting mass, and if we're talking like if we want to get into like the 3D, 5D thing, like,
Yeah,
I don't want to get too conspiratorial on
yeah,
here.
of course.
Everything I'm saying, disclosure, everything I'm saying is nothing is factual. Everything is just my thoughts, and I have no proof for anything I'm saying here. That let me just get it out there.
Of course.
And so, I think the governments will regulate crypto, and there's centralized crypto and there's decentralized crypto. So we're already seeing a split in how crypto operates. In terms of like decentralization is like what crypto is all about, anonymousness and stuff like that. Centralized is basically making it all regulated, making sure. And there's arguments for both, the people are pro-centralization because they think it's more regulated and safe. Like I'm personally pro-decentralization, and that's my niche, and we think that centralization is unsafe. And it's all about like who you trust more, like even in terms of like how you store. So a lot of people that store money in crypto just store it in dollars. So it's just they store it in crypto, and it's not even an asset that's going up and down. It's just like a bank, and they're storing it in a stable currency, and it's just another place that some people believe is more secure to store your wealth in. And even with like dollars, like the main dollars is like the USDC, which is like American backed, and USDT, which is Chinese backed.
Yeah.
And people believe in both. It's pretty 50-50. I think most people choose USDT, which is the Chinese-backed one.
Mm-hmm.
But like ultimately, it's up to your personal belief, and there's like a big split. Some people will trust the West and the Americas more, and some people trust like what China's doing more. And it's just personal preference. I think we're seeing like an overall fight for freedom, and how we're seeing this design through crypto. Is sort of like we'll see centralized, regulated crypto in probably more like the Western world.
Yeah.
And then, if you're looking into stuff like more in like the Eastern world, like they're more pro decentralization. And there's a really good example is someone like the Telegram founder, Pavel Durov, right? He got arrested recently because he tried to come into West. And the West believe that what he's doing in Telegram is like he doesn't share any Telegram's messages with governments, police. All of Telegram servers are underground, undersea. So like you can't even access them. And the West believe it's illegal to have privacy. Pavel Durov is a libertarian. He's a tech guy that I aspire to. He's fighting for freedom in the tech world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what him getting arrested means, and him coming to the West and getting arrested for freedom. And it's ironic. The reason I use him as a case study is because he came to France and he got arrested, and the whole of Europe wants him arrested. But yet this guy is welcomed by almost like royalty in the governments. He's welcomed with open arms in the Middle East. And there is the difference between the Middle East, their governments want to build with him, and the Western governments want to fight against him. And
Wow.
And I think, we're seeing freedom is like the main topic of what's going on. Everything that's going on right now with wars, freedom of speech, freedom of gender expression,
Yeah.
like everything comes down to freedom. And the way that we're seeing that battle take place in the crypto world is centralization and decentralization. Why I got into crypto
Yeah.
was because I understood what the governments were doing with centralized crypto. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do this, but what are my alternatives? And that's what made me become specialized in decentralized crypto. And how I do see it potentially playing out, this is purely more theoretical than anything else I've
Yeah.
already said. But it's like the government have their centralized crypto that's more
Yeah.
regulated, and then there's a parallel economy
Yeah.
that all operates on decentralized crypto. And it's the two same thing. They're literally the exact same things. They're just parallel economies, and they run parallel, and you can choose either.
Right.
And that's why I
Right.
became specialized in decentralization, because I think that's the route to freedom. That, like, especially in the UK, like, I don't see decentralization being allowed. I don't even see it being allowed in the UK.
No, same. And you know what? That was like my preconceptive kind of concerns of crypto. Is like this is gonna get more and more regulated. They're gonna really try and clamp down on this and monopolize it from a as a government. I think that's what they might try and do and say, okay, you can't trade on this and this platform or whatever unless you're using our own digital currency, the pound or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Which was like, and I think that might actually put a lot of people off, maybe, who are in the back of their head just not sure. Like these are the type of questions that might be flying around their head. So it's good to iron them out a bit.
It's
Go on.
it's interesting though, because like when the government have central bank digital currency, like, are people going to be scared of it? Like, when the government backs it, I get it, for like the average person,
True.
they're going to be like, oh, I can put my money in this now and I know that
Yeah.
it's safe. And
Yeah.
this is another thing as well. Like, I believe that the people in control can force us to do nothing. They can force us to do nothing. They can like scare us, and they can change things they can like try psychologically make us want to choose something that we maybe didn't want to choose, but like we're not forced to do anything.
I also think it's because they're aware of the universal laws in a sense.
Yeah, they don't want the karma.
Exactly. So it comes from that place.
We are going to have a choice, and I think the only way that people will choose central bank digital currency is if the government make it seem like it's the best thing ever. So like, imagine we had a massive cybersecurity attack and everyone couldn't access their bank accounts. Everyone stores their money in a digital bank account and they can't even access it. And suddenly, for like maybe like a week, maybe it's only a couple of days long, or maybe it's a month. And for that time, the panic just becomes massive in terms of like, oh, banks aren't safe anymore. I don't have any cash, and I just need cash to go buy my groceries.
Yeah.
Boom.
Bro, they tried something like this recently. I could have sworn
it
it was
happened
not that
during-
long ago, wasn't it? There was something that I think I was on my way back from Scotland.
Yeah, all
And
the flights came to a standstill in the UK.
This was like back in the summer, but banks, like certain major banks, were down for a little, and I feel like it is just them little spoon-fed warm-ups to
It's like,
these bigger world stage things.
No,
that are
no
gonna
one's
go down.
no one's saying that's a cyber attack, but like we got cyber attacked. I had a friend that worked in Gatwick, and like Gatwick, like the rest of the country, like every airport couldn't let a flight come in or leave for like 3 days or something, except maybe like one airline. So
So, and this is kind of, I guess, leading us to the next kind of question that I had in my mind was like, when we get further down the line with all of this stuff, how do you think it will impact our ability to interact with like the infrastructure of the 3D or traveling and stuff like this? Like, not that it's something that I'm worried about, but I can just see there being maybe a time that comes where the cat's out of the bag, shit's gone a bit crazy, and there's this kind of like clamp for control, and a lot of people might be using these alternative currencies and stuff to, and they might be more readily available to trade in different ways. How do you think it might impact like the way we travel, the way we interact with like just everyday life, from day to day shops and things? Because this is obviously going to take us more towards the kind of lifestyle that we're intending to.
And it leads me on. I wanted to talk about AI,
Yeah.
and like we tie it in more with this, but like
Great.
how I said about how we can't imagine life without the internet, like asking how the blockchain is going to impact day-to-day society as like someone like you or me, that's like understanding what Google did. like
Mhm.
20 years ago.
Mhm.
And if I asked you the same question, pretty much every single business in the whole of Gloucester, which is where we're filming right now, every single business here relies on the internet
There you go.
in some way.
Yeah.
And it will be exactly the same with the
Mm.
blockchain. It
Mm.
will be stuff like, smart contracts, all right? Again, no one's figured it out quite yet, but it's like something like a smart contract, which is how crypto works. And it's basically like there's no human. If I need to send you money in crypto, there's no human to validate that transaction. Where if I wanted to send you money in a bank account, there's had to be multiple humans to validate the transaction to even open up the bank account in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So smart contracts is basically it's a computer generated thing where two agreed things are met and it will just automatically carry that out for you.
That transaction.
And so that deletes the purpose of something like a lawyer and
Yeah.
like creating contracts and things like this. If we can potentially have like an AI and smart contract to do these things for us.
Mm. Mm.
In terms of like overall, like it will. This is the thing with technology is like it's good and it's bad.
Yeah.
And like I'm not gonna say that like
Of
crypto is the
course.
best thing ever. I
Of
think
course.
blockchain's great, but like it's hard to know what the impacts of technology are. Even plastic bags. Plastic bags were invented to be more environmentally friendly because we were using cardboard bags, and that was chopping down trees. So someone came up with plastic to try to save the planet, and now plastic's causing us more harm than if we just continued using trees like we already were. That was working fine, and it's that kind of thing where like no one really knows, and
Yeah.
ultimately, especially with like AI and the blockchain go hand in hand in my head. Like they just they make life easier for one another.
Right.
And yeah, with AI, there is ultimately, obviously, I'm manifesting the best timeline, and I see AI
Mhm.
as like the average person like you or me is gonna work a lot less.
So, bro, this is what I was just showing you there. It was like the way that bro was explaining it was like
It'll be more time to focus on being rather than
raising your
just being
frequency.
overworked. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
being a human being rather than rising each day, and like that's what I mean. The ego straight away bringing you to this human doing space. Like you gotta
Mhm.
always do before setting that frequency straight, and yeah. So very interesting because I really like what it's shifting my perspective on it all. There's parts of you that may also be just layers of my ego that might be resistant to this, and it's probably the same with a lot of people because it's different. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people. So
Change
having
is
these
difficult, but it leads to growth.
exactly
Like,
exactly that's it, and I think having these conversations about how we do utilize it, for the wider good, and integrate with it for the best possible ways for humanity and how we can serve at whole. So yeah, I think it's amazing that we're having these conversations. I think it's gonna help people just get a better feel for this new shift that we're going into.
mm,
Um,
mm.
so yeah, man, definitely interesting. And something you said earlier was quite cool about like just kids raising kids, bro. When we was talking about
Mm.
childhood and how like me and Bay got into this conversation last night, and how like yeah, that because there was a guy I study who talks about like the different densities of consciousness basically, and how like his breakdown from his culture, he took us through like 1 to ninth density, and it was kind of to summarize, it was like first density is when you're between 0 and 9 months, in your mother's womb,
Mm.
and when you're in that womb, you're that embryo growing and developing, and your matrix is the womb, essentially, right? Until you hit the next density, and you're born, and between 1 and 7, then um, your next the density that you find yourself in is then your home, essentially. That governing construct that you're in becomes the home, right? That's from 1 to 7, and that's kind of like the most programmable years as well. So a lot can happen in
Mm.
terms of
Mm.
like embedding lessons and certain karma that needs to be, or lessons that need to be worked through in your lifetime. A lot of them may start to come in different ways, especially just in childhood. Anyway, I think that's kind of what goes down is we like set the tone in our childhood years and early adulthood, and like the rest of our life is kind of like untangling some of them traumas, taking off them layers, taking off them masks, and returning to the self. But anyway, bro went into third density. Then you should be in it from the ages of about 7 to 18, and that's when basically the system then becomes your governing construct because you're in the school system. Once you leave that, you're out in the job, and that's your matrix then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting how we see this correlate with us being in like a third dimensional body, but in a way we're on a fourth dimensional plane as well. This is just one interpretation because of the correlation heart, earth, heart chakra, the fourth, the fourth center, right? This will all tie in eventually. But so point being, most people go through life and get contained in that third density matrix construct of the system. And what's actually meant to happen, if raised properly with the right techniques, parenting techniques, the right practices, whatever, by the time you're 18, you're already full on your way to that fourth density kind of energy or awareness where you realize that the earth or the universe then becomes your matrix in a way, and that you're at one with that. There's nothing that comes in between you and source, essentially. And that's what I guess the system is kind of doing. It's being that middleman that tries to kind of present itself as your god in a way. But like a lot of people end up staying in that kind of third density area of consciousness and don't necessarily maybe awaken or activate that energy in them of, okay, this is my reality, I'm co-creating with the universe. And they kind of have children in that state, and that's where a lot of this kind of cycle can begin to take place, where you haven't necessarily come to certain realizations, and then they get imprinted onto your next generation, and we're not necessarily evolving, we're just cycling certain traumas, which is quite interesting, man, because there's a lot of that. And I think there's a lot of people in this generation now, people around me that I know, who are like breaking them generational things, and like a lot of souls that have just come in now and just like, I'm on mission, I'm here for it, I know what I'm doing, and I'm breaking them cycles. And it's powerful, man. It's so powerful to see so many people like our age, even younger, coming through with the type of awareness that they're in.
And I think that's part of, like, isn't that part of the proof that we are in this massive shift right now, where it's like a bunch of people are coming here, souls are coming here, incarnating and breaking generational curses. And like, that's what I think I'm here for. My guy Phoenix Jones, I got a song with him, yeah. And on the track, he said, "My gang break generational curses," and that's like one of the coolest lyrics that like really resonated with me, that I heard someone else say on like a song that I've got. Because like a lot of people around me are breaking these curses. It's like we're not just people are starting to wake up to like the matrix, the system, and like people are starting to. It's like Cortez, yeah, like the hat. It's rule the world. It's like the logo is Alcatraz. That's a prison, high security prison where everyone's isolated. Everyone's trapped in the system. That's what Cortez rule the world is about. It's about being trapped in the system, and then that's what the logo represents. Is everyone's just trapped in the system. Everyone's in this prison planet, and then the slogan is rule the world.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's about not just being in the prison and ruling, being your own boss, and
autonomy, sovereignty.
And that's what it's all about. And yeah, exactly. And so sovereignty is a thing I'm massive on. And and sort of like just freedom. And that's part of what crypto is about. Is there's like people don't get it. Is like there's loads of different cryptos, and it's like, oh, why won't we just have one? Because having the option to have lots is the sort of freedom that we don't have right now. But yeah, I think breaking the matrix is such a interesting concept for me, because I'd say like I broke the matrix spiritually, in a sense, like 3 years ago, in terms of like I started to understand everything.
Yeah.
And then, but like now I'm like, ironic, like, now positioning myself in tech, like you can't really get more matrixy.
But then if anything, that must speak to the point that in its own way, the mind is the matrix that you've got to break free on, because it's like, what's projecting it. Go on.
Once I became aware of the matrix, the system, whatever, my whole thing is I'm not about breaking the matrix or like hating the matrix or like not being part of that system. The matrix already exists. The system's in place. We've actually created that ourselves, you could argue. So
exactly, it's all karmic in a sense on a collective
it's
scale.
Like breaking the matrix, like you come on, like it's not about breaking it. It's not about hating on the system and not being a part of it. It's about using the system for your own benefit.
Definitely.
And that's something like investing It's like that's the whole concept of investing. It's like, you know, I can't pretend that I believe that the stocks and the crypto market are completely controlled by like the same people who are controlling everything else here. Like they are the ones that manipulate the markets and ultimately decide if it's going up or down.
Mm-hmm.
They have that control.
Yeah.
So like me putting my trust in that is like putting my trust in the same people that I don't trust in the first place.
Yeah,
But it's not
yeah.
about, I don't have my trust in these guys. I'm there for like short term. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
just profit off this system that already exists. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm just trying to use the opportunities available to me.
100%. But was there a point in your journey where like you resented the system?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because
yeah.
I think that's something to speak to as well. You know, a lot of people on the path, you know, we're kind of going like this and we're evolving, we're realizing a lot of things, but there's points along that kind of path that you go on where like you have so much hatred and anger towards what you're seeing in the world or the system, whatever else. And it's like kind of what you're speaking to is the the effects of one kind of internally doing that work to transcend those emotions and you know, alchemize those emotions into, you know, a loving kind of state and a heart-based state of understanding the nature of this whole realm and how there's a oneness to it all, and that like you're right, you know you can't, if you're behaving in a way which is resentful or angry towards anything in your reality, you're separated, you're in a state of separateness, and you're I guess dealing with that part of your ego at that time, you know.
I've been angry and resented the
Yeah,
system.
same, you have
That
to
causes
go
more
through that.
hurt.
Exactly,
It
yeah.
causes more pain. So what's the
Exactly,
point?
and even with family, like it creates more resistance among family, friends, people that you're maybe trying to like influence or share some things with. Um, if you've got that frequency or that energy of like that vibration of anger or, you know, an unsettled, you're not balanced with the informational consciousness that you've acquired. So how are they gonna receive it either? You know. So
They don't want you
yeah.
they don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to resonate at a high frequency. Like
Mhm.
how whatever you break it down to,
Yeah.
like that's clearly how society's set up. Is like we're not vibrating as high as we could be, and it's working out how do we vibrate higher, and that's why. And it's something that like I originally thought, like I never thought I'd want to go into the matrix. Like right now I feel more motivated than ever to like get in the matrix and like build businesses and like get into
Yeah.
these rooms of higher up people,
Yeah. Yeah.
get into rooms with people that really talk about, really understand how the world's being controlled, or
Yeah.
potentially, you know, I want to be in rooms with the people running it.
Yeah, man.
And it's something that, you know, you see in like a lot of celebrities where it's like they come up and they stand for this shit, and then you see them like go super corporate,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, maybe they've lost some of their integrity. A really
Mm.
good example of this is Virgil, like the owner of
Mhm.
Off-White. Like a lot of people felt like the way he come up, and Clint, who founded Cortez, like he
Yep.
didn't respect the way he'd come up because he felt like, oh, so you're black and you're doing this for like the underground community, like underrepresented people,
Mhm.
and then you've just gone down this corporate route, and now you like head at Louis Vuitton,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, and you've kind of like lost what you were doing. And then part of where Clint came around to respect Virgil was he realized that Virgil went down the corporate route to create more opportunities for people like himself
Right.
in that world.
Right.
And it's you know, and that's something that I've come to
Taken
terms with. And
yeah,
there's like a lot
and
of
apply
people,
into your
yeah,
situation.
a lot of
Yeah.
people that I'm around, like in especially in the Web3 space, you know,
Mm.
these people are very aligned with our community
Values.
type thing. The values are still the same, but they work for like the, you know, Facebook or these companies that you wouldn't expect people, you know, people that fully get the matrix to like be working for. But
Yeah.
it's deeper than that, and a lot of people are just building, and you know, where the system already exists, you know, you've got to build within the system.
I agree with that, bro. I,
Um,
I really think as well the way I see what you're talking on as well is like, you know, this aspect of darkness and light,
mm,
and if we're applying that to the two forces that are, you know, dancing with each other on this in this whole realm, I do think to a degree, like you said, we gotta, if it's a if it's a battle, if you want to call it that, then, you know, I think the best way that we kind of create change and create ripples in this world is to go, like you said, into these places of maybe more darkness, or, you know, right in the heart of your city, you know, repping it from the center and emanating your energy outward, and not only will that magnetize the right opportunities, but like you're bringing it to the areas that really need it, and you're not doing it from a place of fear, or any type of doubt on what your authentic expression is and how you raise people up or raise the frequency in your space. I think all of that fear and that doubt can dissipate once you really reach those authentic kind of um, vibrational frequencies, of just like them higher emotions. You're really yourself and you're expressing it and you're taking that action. It's like, that's what I'm realizing with this city is as well. It's like, okay, there's a duty to fulfill here in a certain time frame. So whilst I'm here and I'm just going to rep it. I'm going to do as much as I can to influence people here, to uplift, to inspire, and to build something that we can then take away and sort of move around with. So it's good that you're local these days, bro.
Yeah,
we
man,
can tap in more.
And on this topic, yeah, is a good example of like the matrix, right? I know I've grown up in the countryside. I know for a fact I do not want to live in the city.
Yeah.
But I also understand that being in the city is almost essential for me to, make things happen at the rate I need them to happen. And it's like, I've moved from where I've grown up and then to Bristol, then to Manchester. And now I'm in Birmingham. And as someone who likes the countryside, Bristol's got the most countryside, then Manny, then Birmingham. And it's like I'm right in sort of like urbanness now, the exact opposite of like what I like. But it just works. It just works. Like, there's a massive population there. There's lots of people that are just super hungry for it. I'm super connected to the rest of the country, like the infrastructure, the trains from all roads less so, but the trains are really good. If I want to go London on the train, I can be there within 2 hours from Birmingham. And it's this sort of infrastructure where it's like, I know long term, do I want to build in the city? Absolutely not. But I'm aware that right now I'm young. I can hack it.
Exactly, that's my point. It's almost like it's strengthening your aura being in there, because it's like it's challenging you. It's giving you less. It's throwing things at you every day where you're interacting with aspects of society that might be more challenging to interact with. But it's teaching you. It's that inner teacher that's teaching you how to hold your own and how to like carry your authentic energy wherever you go and not be.
Not let anything affect your vibration. Like I'm fully aware that I'm manifesting a lot of big things. Like there's some. I need to have very strong energy within myself to be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve. And a big part of that is when anything goes wrong or anything that I didn't want to happens. If I get emotionally invested in that's blocking. That if I let that affect my frequency, then that's stopping me being the frequency that I need to be to unlock everything.
Talk to that a little bit with manifestation and stuff, because obviously there's so much information about manifestation we see on internet today, but like the role of emotions in it, because emotions are what moves and drives, energy, emotion, driving the
I think for me, manifestation, and as someone who has manifested things, I've watched manifestation happen in my life. Sometimes more obvious than others. Sometimes it's very directly like what I was manifesting and it turns up a week later. Other times it's more subtle. Yeah. But like ultimately, I view manifestation. I view all of us as we are the creators here. Like we've got that essence within us. Like we're all connected to this. We're all so irrelevant. We're so irrelevant in this universe that we're almost really important because of how we're such a little speck that it wasn't by accident type thing. And so we're all here to sort of create our own realities. And that's what life is about. It's about creating stuff, and it's about building, creating the life that you want, and that's what manifestation is. And so, I view manifestation specifically about way you manifest. For me, oh my gosh, I think manifestation is about matching the frequency of what you want to become. Exactly. So if you want money, it's not I want £1 million, because I want, emphasizing the fact you don't already have it, is I'm grateful for £1 million. And actually in manifestation, that's why I founded my brand Ways to K's. The whole concept of Ways to K's is about manifesting, right? Ways to K's, the meaning of the word Ways to K's, the meaning of the brand is ways to thousands, right? That's what Ways to K's means. But the slogan is stay grateful, because you cannot you cannot be you're on your ways to thousands if you're grateful for all the blessings that you already have.
Yeah.
Because if you can't be grateful for what you've already got, then why is the universe going to give you any more?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's
bro. Spot on.
you know, and that's why I love,
Completely
like, I don't manifest any number of money. I always just manifest abundance, because that's deeper than money. Abundance is the confidence that things can go wrong, and like I can have unexpected payments. And actually, I was chatting to you a week ago, and I was down on my last £200.
Yeah.
And I was coming, you know, everything's gone wrong. I've had a bunch of unexpected payments, and I've got no liquidity left in my bank account. And I'm thinking, I don't really know what's next here. And then this week, you know, I'm now chatting from my life has changed in just that week. I've had a new job opportunities come in. I've had investments just pop off in ways that my investments have never historically popped off. And when I was spending all that money and everything was going wrong, and I was getting worried because my car got broken into, I had a flat tire, mobile parking tickets, like all these unexpected costs that were just coming to me. But when they were all coming in, even though I knew I couldn't afford them, I didn't stress, because I knew in my head the whole time, I was like, abundance, abundance, abundance. If I stress about having to spend these unexpected money, and I let that I start deep in that, then I'm not abundant. Because abundance is trusting, and this is why I wanted to share this story, is because within the week of me feeling like you trust in the fact that I was abundant and I didn't have enough money to sustain myself, but I was just trusting the abundance. Within literally a week, the abundance came of like the best trade of my life. And it's just, it goes to show in terms of like, you know, it's just when you trust the universe, you know, I let it happen. And maybe it would have happened regardless. But yeah, at the same time, I do think, had I been like more emotionally worried about stuff, it may have blocked some of my blessings. Even just and I think that's another thing of manifestation, is sometimes you need to let things go, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, or whatever it is in your life that's part of your routine. Like, that can block the blessings. Like, you know, sometimes people are in an unhappy relationship and then they get out of it and they just meet the one instantly. It was like, it only took you getting out of that 3-year relationship that was your stability, and you fought so much of it, and you've come out of that and you found someone that's like way better matched to you super fast. And
it often shows up like that, doesn't it? It shows up in a way where it's like it's hidden in the most feared things, you know, like when you cut out something which is that comfort zone, or that partner, or whatever it is that you've been around that's kind of like kept you in a certain frequency or kept you in a certain place. You shift things and it's like, it's almost like them floodgates are opened and it all starts to come in. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's like, you know, you get tested the most when it's time to elevate, when your frequency is about to raise. And it's like, you recently, just a living example of that, where like all of those things were coming at you. And I
said to you before, I was like, I knew at the time, like, everything was going wrong in my life. I was like, universe testing my detachment right now. It's testing my detachment. And I said that to you. And then you've watched it.
It's deep, but sometimes the momentum, you know, like the momentum of that lesson has to speed up. And it was like, maybe it was that point in your life where it's like, almost there was a deadline by when a lesson needed to be learnt by, and it was like, because you're going to that next chapter, and it was like, all right, let me just pressure up the diamond, and boom, you know, it comes after when it lands. So it's like that's something, that's a download that came in for me recently. Was like, I said it to Trey not long ago. It was like, I was in contemplation the other day, and it was like, there was a vision that just came into my head of like a big clock, just a giant clock, and the big hand, the second hand, like ticking over 12, and that was all I saw. But then like the download started to land, and I was like, rah, obviously we're working on this celestial clock as well, where we're ticking through the ages, and every time, you know, there's a new almost simulation playing out of how it shows up, and the energies of that age, you know, reflecting in how it's kind of playing down here in the theater. But we've, even in the individuated universe, because that's on the macro level before, so in the individual, we've got that same kind of clock working with us, where like there might be points along your life where you're meant to hit certain lessons, or, you know, certain lessons are meant to come in at, and this was the download that was coming in. And it was like around that time I had that kind of experience myself, and it was like, it almost just felt as though in my life, like this hand came over and shifted me into this new part, you know, this new this new frequency in my life where a lesson had been learned, and it was like now I've got to operate in this realm with that embodying that consciousness or that awareness that I've now attained, and it's like the game showing up different, you know. So yeah, I experienced that download recently.
Yeah, like I definitely like I get downloads. Like
Yeah,
that's like a big part of like how I move. Is like, you know, process, like getting this information kind of through and just like
it's a
recognizing it
transmission.
manifest in my life. And
It's like what we said before as well, like how it's not, these things. If when you're in as a conduit, as an antenna, because I think that's what we're all kind of acting as well. We're like little antennas that are picking up frequencies from the ether that are matching what we're on, like you said before with the manifestation. And yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that like we are vessels for this to come through us, all of us. And like you said, there shouldn't necessarily be attachment to the messenger of the message. It's just kind of like accepting that, okay, source and spirit works for us all. And if
some
I've got
people
a
are better at
message,
listening to it.
and it's also like, yeah, it's just like people will articulate it in different ways. That's why there is all these different teachers teaching for different stages of evolution, I guess, because we're all here in this one. I think that's the beauty of this realm, is like we simultaneously live in two different realms at the same time. The collective timeline and the individual.
So
It's
true,
because
man,
you're an individual because you're dual in nature. You've got this dual nature, do you? And it happens in that way, and this is why I just think we all, like we said before, we do it backwards in a way. We feel like we have to go out into the world and act and take all the action first before doing the self-care and the making sure we're all right. And we've been conditioned to do it that way, on a subtle level over however long. And it's like, I think I'm at a place now where I'm learning to balance it with like cultivating my, charging myself up with intention and everything and all the ideas to a point where I can really attract them to me even more than, I pair it with the action, but I know it's already on the way. So yeah, man, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to touch on, I think we're kind of rolling towards the end. We've got about 8 minutes left for the booking.
I mean, yeah, bro, like
There's a lot
for context, yeah, we've seen each other quite a lot this week
lot,
already.
bro,
We probably
a lot.
spent over 10 hours already just having these conversations
And
this
I
week alone.
I want to stay locked in.
And so, like, yeah, is there anything else I want to discuss? Obviously, like I'd love to come back and talk only about spirituality and just about
Yeah,
that. I'd love to come back and talk only about like technology and like maybe
I got a question for you.
focus on like more niche stuff.
Yeah, because there is a lot we could go into. Like one of the questions I did want to bring up, maybe two, because if we've got time, but
Yeah,
one of them just about like, okay, if we're moving towards more like self-sufficient lifestyles, or like if we're creating, even when it comes to like building our own accommodation and even our living spaces, how do you think technology will integrate with them? Like, is there any parts of it? Because for me personally, I do think we're gonna integrate with it to some degree.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't resonate with the extent of some of it, transhumanism and whatever. But
Yeah.
I think there's a great purpose to it, like you said, and I think everything is happening in equal balance. Like if the individual ego can't necessarily perceive it, technology has an equal amount of positive to it or goodness to it than it does, negative. I think everything in the universe is balanced in this way, but it's just like from one's own perception, it's like I'm only seeing this much of it or this side of it because that's where I'm positioned. But yeah, how do you think like things like hydroelectricity, solar panels? Obviously, these are types of things that like I would like to work with in the future. To be self-sufficient. I think we're gonna have to. Is there stuff that comes to mind when,
So
with, especially maybe more so with crypto? But
yeah, I'm always careful of like if a narrative is getting pushed to us, and that's something I'm as a vegan,
yeah.
right? The vegan narrative is getting pushed to
Yeah,
us,
yeah,
and this is something that I openly talk about all the time, which is like, I believe they're pushing a vegan narrative that is less healthy than if you're eating meat, because
Yep.
a lot of these vegan foods are very, very, very processed.
100, bro.
And it's like, you know, you got to be careful of like if a narrative is getting pushed. And I am very, very conscious of like the fact that greenwashing is a real thing, and I'm all about saving the environment and sustainability. Like, I'm honestly about that, and I think I do my part to help with that. But why did I lose a train of thought there, man? But yeah, greenwashing, right? I think just like everything is like, yes, the planet shift, sustainability is like a thing that has to happen, but I also think the system's trying to push that, and they will use that as just another way to control us more. And I'm very conscious of a world where it's like, oh, so we're only using green electricity, and it's not actually where it's not even like the most wise thing to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we could like, you know, put all. Yeah, it could just be used to control us more, and like, you know, instead like, and I will lead this into something else, because this is one of the things I was gonna talk about, but I'm conscious of the time.
That's cool.
But it's like, in terms of like overall, I've spoken a lot about where I think tech's headed.
Yeah.
And kind of like the more utopian timeline that I see that happening is kind of like, you know, the government own your currency, so like with that they're not gonna what, you think the government are gonna store your currency for free? No, like they're only gonna keep it in their online servers for like a month at a time or something like that. So they're gonna force you to like spend your currency so you can't stack. And like maybe AI replace everyone's jobs and they release universal credit on central bank digital currency, and then everyone's got their time to like focus more inwards, but maybe they don't use that correctly. And it's like, I don't know, like that's the more utopian timeline where it's like AI replaced everyone's jobs, everyone's hooked on the government's universal income because they can't get a job, like there's no other jobs available, and now they just have to they're living in these 50-minute cities, and that's the utopian.
Where do you want to be positioned when that goes down?
Well, that's the thing. I view it as like two timelines. Like that is the utopian, like that's the scary one. And I'm manifesting this other one, which is like, you know, I view it more as like with 5D as like we get into these swaths that are like outside the cities, in these smaller communities where we all operate in kind of like a microeconomy where the blockchain can easily put tangible value on absolutely everything. They could put it on this conversation, all our online tracking and stuff. So basically we live in like a microeconomy where everyone is just constantly paying each other micro payments for everything. And you know, for example,
hey, this is it. This
is something, right? A UK. So I currently live in Birmingham. Yeah, I live on Ladypool Road. Yeah, so anyone who knows about Birmingham and knows about Ladypool Road, it's a predominantly Asian area. Yeah, and one of the things I like about my area is that the community own everything.
Strong.
There's no corporate chains. They own all the properties. They own all the shops. Everyone in the community has a business that serves someone else, serves other people in the community. And this is one of the things why I don't resonate with the UK. Is there is an anti-entrepreneurial spirit here that you've only got to go to somewhere like Asia. Like Asians are some of like the Asians are some of the best. Like in my head at least, a lot of business people that I respect. Like they've got that entrepreneurial energy. Somewhere like Thailand, where like everyone, it's just a microeconomy. Everyone's does something for like other people in their economy. And I think, you know, I think we do shifting back towards like a microeconomy is sustainable. And if you look, you know, something like where I am, something that's been very insightful moving to where I am is like the community is a lot stronger. Where, you know, the community is like, it's just so much stronger, and it's sort of like that entrepreneurial energy in the UK and stuff. And like, you know, we got to shift back towards that micro economy in certain countries. And that's part of why I think this overall shift is like so exciting, is because right now there's just like, it's unfair. Like a good example, like the people in control of the world just exploit different countries for different reasons and for their own pleasure, where I feel like we're going to start to see a shift in terms of like balance. And you know, a big part of this shift, right, something that I feel like is unfair and very obviously unfair, is like Africa is the most resource rich continent on the planet, but they're not rich because they exploit they sell all their products to the West, and then the West sell it back to them, which is, and that's just stuff like that, where like we're seeing Africa now, where we're seeing like a bunch of good leaders in Africa starting to take this back, you know, I know in Ghana it's something to do with the fact that like Ghana is like produces such good chocolate, but it's actually the government where like they're not allowed to keep more than like 20% or something in the
Right.
country. Like they have to export it because that's
Yeah.
what makes their currency have value in the overall trade world. And it's like
Right.
stuff like this where it's like crypto's ironing out these issues, and it's like
Yeah.
it's empowering stuff and sort of yeah, there is new opportunities. And yeah, in Africa, like I'm seeing a good shift from like certain leaders where, you know, they're doing stuff that other leaders have been killed for. And it's like, you know,
Mhm.
we're starting to see people start to take back control
Yes.
in their finances, how they store their wealth, or, you know, and this taking back of control is like a big thing. And part of why I think, why, if we see a 3D and a 5D split, I believe these run parallel for like quite some time.
So it's like Orwell's 1984, and you know these where it describes these. It literally is depicting that same timeline, where it's like there's these two, and I guess people like Dolores Cannon and that go into this type of thing where there's this splitting. You know, there's
And
this.
it's like, because
splitting
if
of
we're in
timeline.
these 15-minute cities on central bank currency, it's like if you're not in that system where this system has complete. This is why I do see these the two, like the utopian and the best timeline. Like I see them running parallel.
Yep.
And it's because like everyone inside that system is like the system has complete. Once they own your money as well, which they pretty much already do, is like that is complete control.
Yeah.
And so if
Yeah.
you're not, and if you're in the 15-minute city and they own your money and they control your food supply and everything,
Yeah.
if they've got complete control over majority of the population, because majority of the population will walk into that trap because it's
Yep.
easy. It's not going to be easy
Convenient.
choosing the other option, especially if there's like a dramatic event which like forces everyone into the scary option. It's going to be even harder to position yourself to be on the
Yeah.
positive option. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's like people fall into that trap. But like the system, I view it as like once they've got the mass population in these 50-minute cities on the digital bank currency and stuff, that's why I believe like the parallel timeline is like that represents complete freedom, because like the government is not going to care if they've literally got everyone in the 50-minute city on their currency, on their food supply. Everything is like anyone who doesn't opt for that system, I think that is like complete freedom, and that is the opportunity we get to like rebuild our food systems, rebuild our education
Yeah.
systems,
Yeah.
and like that's how I see it playing out. And how we funding that through this parallel decentralized crypto economy.
Yes.
That is the same. It's the same sort of shit that the system's using, but we've just got like our own version of it. And long term, I see the system like collapsing on itself, and you know, it's you know the outsiders that chose like the alternative lifestyle actually building the new earth.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, bro, beautifully said,
I
man.
feel
That
that's a
was
good way to-
amazing.
I think that's a nice way to bring it to the
That
end,
was
isn't
amazing.
it?
No, I can really feel the passion coming through as you're talking there, man. But you summarized a lot of the points that I wanted us to get to, I guess, in this conversation, because it's like I want people to hear that message and realize that timeline, claim that timeline too.
Realize that it's up to you to position yourself to, like, no one knows how it's going to play out, but it's up
Yeah.
to you to position yourself to be in the best situation.
Yeah.
I have no idea how this is going out, but I've positioned myself because I've learned how to understand Web3 in the most accessible way possible, which was crypto, which is just my foot in the door. Like, and it's like, yeah.
Nah, amazing, man. But just quickly, what's next? What's next for you?
What's next for me? I don't want to say, man, because I
Cool.
thought at the start of January this year, I thought I knew what was next for me this year, and I thought it was all music. Like I thought I was going full steam ahead on that. But actually, I pivoted, and it's not been about music at all. Like this year's been less so about music ever since I've been an artist.
Yeah.
But I've been building so much in like business, and like I guess like what's next for me is like my life's changed even since. You know,
Yeah,
even since
Couple
like you know, like even in the last week, you know, you've watched my life change. My life, I'm aware that I'm in a transitional period.
Yeah.
So for me to say what I'm gonna do next is impossible, because I'm pivoting on every L, and I'm saying yes to every opportunity right now. And since I've been doing that and really focusing on doing that, my life's changing so rapidly that like for me to predict what is next for me is hard. I guess the only thing that I can say confident what's next for me is that I'm gonna have 100K to my name. I'm gonna be in the 6-figure club very soon. And then and once I'm in the 6-figure club, that's next to me, then it will be more obvious what's coming next once I've got a bit of capital to like really invest in the stuff I'm passionate about.
Amazing, bro. Thank you for jumping on today, my
thank
man.
you, yeah.
Honestly, it's been a good conversation. I think we've really got to some great points. Where can people find you, bro? Where
Yeah.
can
So I
people
go by
find you?
Mr. Cragg. Mr. Cragg, if you search on Mr. Cragg, or as an artist, I'm known as CR4GG, so that's Cragg just spelled over 4.
On Instagram, man.
But yeah, you can find, if you search up Mr. Cragg or CR4GG on Instagram, you'll be able to find me. And yeah, I don't want to promise about what I post on
Course.
Instagram because
Course,
right now I'm a
course.
ghost on social media.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
one of the only bits of content I've
Yeah,
created
great.
for a long time.
Yeah, I
But
appreciate it.
yeah,
Obviously, that's what I mean,
if
man.
you
It's
want
a
to
bit of a
connect,
leap.
if you want to message me about anything that I've discussed, contact me on Instagram, CR4GG.
Yeah, great. Thank you, my bro. And yeah, just to wrap it up then quickly, guys, thank you to everyone that's listened in today. If you're listening, we appreciate you very
Yeah, thank you
deeply.
very, very, very
And we're
much.
thankful for you lot giving us this space and platform to obviously share our expressions, give our authentic selves over to you, and share what we can to help you guys on your journey. But yeah, once again, bro, appreciate you coming on again very,
Appreciate you
very
having me, of
much.
course.
And we'll do it again soon, I'm sure. But yeah, for now, people look into our Instagram. Drop this one a little like, a comment if you've got something you want to add, and a subscribe to the channel. And
Definitely add anything you want to add. Whether you
yeah, comments.
comments. Yeah,
Comments. We
Give
want
your
to
own
interact with
opinions.
people,
Cool.
man, and
Disagree
engage.
with anything I've said. Like, let's have that conversation. Like, I'm always open to new ideas and different people's perspectives. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
So.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Beautiful. Yeah, and stay tuned for the Telegram channel, people. It's building. There's link in our bio on Instagram if you want to join it. But yeah, peace, love, unity. Until next time, peace.
Get up there.
Yeah, appreciate you.
I could have finished the podcast.